My name's Sarah. I'm 23, and I work the night shift at a 7-Eleven out in the suburbs of Arlington. Most of the folks who come in that late are truckers or people driving in from who knows where just to grab gas and some caffeine. That morning, it was around 6. The sky was starting to lighten up. I was at the back, counting the cash in the safe, last thing I had to do before clocking out. Then I heard the bell over the door. First customer of the day. He was tall, with a thick beard. "Morning, large coffee?" he said. "How do you take it? Sugar? Cream?" "Just black." I stopped counting and grabbed a cup, moving quick. He smelled like diesel fuel and stale sweat. I cringed just a little as I turned to pour the coffee. Through the front window, I caught sight of a big rig parked outside. Yeah, definitely a trucker. I handed him the coffee. He dropped some change on the counter but didn't leave. Just stood there, sipping, eyes drifting around the store. "You working alone?" That caught me off guard. I tried to play it cool. "Not really. My coworker's coming in soon." He gave a slow nod, eyes still locked on me. "It isn't safe for a girl working nights like this." He sipped his coffee again, still watching me. "Hey, you know how to get to Vegas? I think I'm lost." I pointed to the map we had taped up on the wall. My hands were starting to sweat, but he didn't even look at the map, just kept staring. "How old are you?" he asked. Something in me said not to answer. "You look really young. Still in college?" He stepped in closer to the counter. I could see the stains on his shirt now, and the body odor hit me harder. "Where do you live? Far from here?" My heart started pounding. I instinctively stepped back, reaching under the counter, feeling around for my phone. He smiled. That kind of smile that makes your skin crawl. "Hey now, don't be scared. I'm just making conversation." He planted both hands on the counter and leaned in. "You got a boyfriend? Someone picking you up?" I didn't say anything, just stared out the front, praying someone would pull in. It felt like being locked in a cage with something dangerous. "Why aren't you answering me?" He stepped closer, just one table between us now. "I'm just trying to get to know you." I took a shaky breath. "Sir, there are security cameras in here." I pointed up toward the ceiling, hoping that would make him back off. He glanced up, then gave a lazy smirk. I didn't do anything. He drained the last of his coffee, then chucked the cup at the trash can so hard I flinched. "Hey, you drive to work, or someone drop you off?" Still no answer from me. I couldn't hide the fear on my face anymore. He started walking down one of the aisles, but his eyes never left mine. "You know, I like young girls." I glanced at the door. It was too far. He could easily cut me off if I ran. "Let's go get coffee somewhere else. I know a quiet little spot." The way he looked at me, the way he said it, the way he just stood there, casually blocking the exit. It felt planned. All of it. Then he started acting weird, pressing both hands to his face, grinning like a little kid. I froze. My heart was hammering in my chest. Then he started whistling, his head bobbing side to side like some drunk. "Sarah!" he called out, all giddy. I glanced down at my name tag in panic. My hands were shaking as I fumbled for my phone under the counter. And then he started counting down. 10, 9, 8. His voice got lower with each number. Slower, but creepier. And then, like fate throwing me a lifeline, I heard an engine pull up outside. My heart damn near leapt out of my chest. It was Mike the mechanic. He worked over at the plant down the road. He always stopped in for coffee before his shift. The second I saw Mike, the weight on my chest lifted. I called out, "Mike!" and shot him a "please help me" look. He caught on fast. He glanced at me, then clocked the trucker standing in the middle of the store. "Sarah," he said loud and clear. The guy turned to him, sizing him up. Mike was shorter, but built like a tank with tattoos and scars on his arms. The kind of guy you don't mess with. You know this girl too? He asked. I'm a regular, Mike said calmly. What about you? Just stopped in for some coffee. But he wasn't going anywhere. He just stood there, arms locked in front of him, still blocking the damn exit. Mike stepped up to the counter, right between me and him. Same coffee as always, he said, then turned to face the guy. The whole store went dead quiet. The guy didn't move. He sneered and gave Mike a once-over like he thought he had the upper hand. Then, real slow, he reached into his pocket. Just enough so we could see the handle of a knife. My blood ran cold. Mike saw it too. His expression changed in an instant, eyes like ice. I'd think twice before doing something stupid, Mike said. The guy raised an eyebrow. Or what? What are you gonna do? He stroked the knife handle like he was itching to escalate. The tension was thick enough to cut with a blade. I choked up, trembling as I watched the two men face off. Mike had his fists clenched, eyes locked and dead serious, completely dialed in. The tension hung in the air for a few more seconds. Then finally, the driver slowly pulled his hands out of his pockets and started backing away. All right, just this once, he muttered. He turned and walked toward the door. Mike didn't move, just kept his cold stare fixed on the guy. At the door, the driver stopped. He turned back, gave me this eerie little smile. Bye, Sarah. I'll be back. The sound of his truck engine faded into the distance, and I collapsed into the chair behind the counter, my whole body shaking like a leaf. Mike came over, his voice soft. You okay, Sarah? I nodded, but the tears wouldn't stop. Relief mixed with fear, spilling over. Thank you, Mike. I don't even want to think about what could have happened if you hadn't walked in. I didn't call the cops. I just wanted that day to disappear. After that, Mike and I got a lot closer. We've been in this kind of interesting stage. He swings by the store a few times a day now, and I still work there. Only now I keep a taser and a can of pepper spray under the counter. Hopefully I'll never have to use them. I'm Katie, 14, and I live in Phoenix, Arizona, with my sister Elise, who's 15. It was a Friday, late July, and the heat was absolutely brutal. Mom was working the afternoon shift at the hospital. Dad was off on some business trip, so it was just me and Elise holding down the fort. Hey Katie, want to go snag a free Slurpee? Elise called out from the living room. 7-Eleven is running promos today. I rolled out of bed and slid into my sandals, jean shorts, and a pink tank top. Plenty for this kind of weather. Elise was already waiting by the door, keys in hand. The 7-Eleven was just a couple blocks from our house, like a 10-minute walk, tops. Phoenix streets were dead quiet in the afternoon. Don't go overboard with the snacks, Elise warned as we stepped into the store. The little bell above the door jingled, and the blast of cold AC felt like heaven. The guy behind the counter gave us a nod. We knew him pretty well from all the candy runs. I made a beeline for the Slurpee machine, grabbed a medium cup, and went all in on strawberry. Elise filled up a large one, mixing cherry and blueberry. While she was still messing with the lid, I drifted over to the snack aisle. Bright orange Doritos bags jumped out at me from the shelf, right next to rows of Haribo gummies and stacks of Hershey bars. I was doing some quick math in my head, figuring out if I had enough change for another pack of M&Ms, when a voice suddenly came from right next to me. Hey there, pretty girl. I turned around. There was a woman standing nearby, brown hair pulled back, wearing a white blouse. In her arms was a little dog, kind of fawn-colored, panting like crazy. Hey, I said, trying to be polite. Do you like dogs? His name's Peanut, she said, holding him out to me. Peanut licked his nose and stuck his tongue out, looking up at me with those big round eyes. Aw, yeah, he's adorable, I said, reaching out to pet his head. His fur was super soft and warm. What's your name? She asked. Katie. Katie, could you do me a quick favor? I really need to use the bathroom, but they don't let dogs in the store. Would you mind watching Peanut for a minute, just right outside? I glanced over at Elise. She was still by the Slurpee machine, back turned, totally focused. "Sure, I can do that," I nodded. "Thank you so much. I'll be fast." She handed me Peanut. He was lighter than I thought, maybe 3 pounds, tops. We stepped outside. I realized I never asked her name. The sun was still beating down, hot as ever. I stood under the awning in the shade, gently stroking Peanut's fur. The dog just lay there quietly in my arms. "Katie, come here for a sec," the woman called out from near the parking lot. I blinked. Wait, when did she come outside? She was standing next to a blue van, side door wide open. There was a tall guy standing beside her. "Come here, Katie. I want to show you something," she said, waving me over. I started walking toward the parking lot, still holding Peanut tight. But the second I got close to the van, the guy grabbed my left arm. "Get in the car," he snapped. His voice was rough. His hand clamped down on my arm, huge, calloused fingers digging into my skin. I gasped and dropped Peanut. The little dog bolted. I tried to yank my arm away, but he was way stronger than me. "No, let me go," I screamed. "I said get in the car." He started dragging me toward the open van. Inside, I saw a nasty gray carpet and rope. "Katie, let go of my sister." Elise's voice cut through the air like a whip. She came running out of the store, her Slurpee flying out of her hand and exploding on the pavement, ice and soda everywhere. "Help! He's trying to kidnap her!" she screamed. The clerk came running out of the store, another guy right behind him. Over by the gas pumps, someone jumped out of a red car. The man let go of me instantly. I dropped to the ground, scraping both my knees on the pavement. "Let's go," the woman shouted. They both dove into the car. The engine roared to life. It backed out fast, tires screeching as it tore down the street. I caught a glimpse of the license plate, Arizona, and the numbers 736, but I couldn't remember the exact order. Elise threw her arms around me. I was shaking all over, heart pounding like crazy. The clerk pulled out his phone and called 911. "You okay?" he asked, his face full of worry. I couldn't answer. My knees were stinging and bleeding, and I felt completely out of it. Elise didn't say anything either. She just kept holding on to me, breathing fast. About 10 minutes later, a police cruiser pulled up. 2 officers took our statements. They asked me to describe the guy, the woman, and the car. They said it looked like a planned kidnapping. Mom showed up not long after Elise called her. She hugged us tight and cried. Dad booked the earliest flight back to Phoenix. That night, at dinner, I still couldn't stop shaking. I kept seeing the guy's cold eyes and feeling his hand crushing my arm. Elise sat beside me, holding my hand the whole time. "From now on," Mom said, "you girls do not go anywhere alone, and you always tell us where you're going." I nodded. I got it now. The world wasn't as safe as I'd thought. The next morning, the 7-Eleven clerk called my mom. He'd found Peanut wandering near the store, hungry, thirsty, and totally lost. Poor little guy. He'd been part of their plan, and they didn't even care what happened to him. "Can we keep him, Mom?" I asked, while she was telling us about the call. Mom looked at Dad, then Elise. "If no one comes forward after a week, we'll make it official," she said. A week passed. No one called. No one claimed him. The police checked. Peanut didn't have a chip. They said he was probably just used as bait. So we adopted him. Just like that, Peanut became part of our family. Now every night when I cuddle Peanut close, I think about how one good thing came out of that awful day. This little dog got a new home, and I got a little buddy who'll always remind me just how lucky I was to get away. I'm Oscar, 30 years old. I've been working at this 7-Eleven for 3 years now. My shift that day was from 4 p.m. to midnight, usually the busiest time. I had about 30 minutes left on my shift. I was counting money in the register when I heard the bell chime, signaling a customer. A tall man walked in, wearing a baseball cap that hid half his face. I politely greeted him and asked if he needed any help, but the man didn't answer, just quietly walked along the aisles. I went back to what I was doing, occasionally glancing up to make sure he wasn't doing anything weird. After about 5 minutes, he brought a bottle of whiskey, a pack of cigarettes, and some snacks to the counter. When I was ringing up the items, I could feel his heavy breath on my face. The strong smell of alcohol and cigarettes hit my nose, mixed with a sour body odor. He stood pressed against the counter, so close I could count every stubby beard hair on his chin. I told him the total, trying to keep my voice normal. He slowly pulled out his wallet, dragging the motion out as if trying to stall, then handed me a $50 bill. When I gave him his change, his rough fingers brushed against my palm. I quickly pulled my hand back. Just then, he looked up, and his face became clear. "Remember me, buddy?" I froze, staring at every feature on his face. Suddenly, memories flooded back. A week ago, I had caught him harassing a girl. I immediately called the police to help. Before the police took him away, he threatened to come back and get revenge on me. At the time, I only felt a little annoyed, not too concerned. Back to facing him in that moment, the blood in my veins felt like it was freezing. I didn't show my panic. I looked at the register and kept working. And then his expression changed. The corner of his mouth slowly curled into a disgusting grin. I tried to stay calm and politely answered to get him to move on. "I see a lot of customers, so I can't remember all of them." He sneered. "You're the jerk who called the cops last week. How dare you butt into my business?" I didn't know how to react. The store was empty, no other customers, and my co-worker was in the back storeroom. My hand slowly moved under the counter, where the alarm button was. "If you don't have anything else, I'm going to continue my work." But he didn't budge after my words. His right hand was still on the counter, but his left hand had slipped inside his jacket. My gut told me that wasn't a good sign. I tried to reach for the alarm button, but he was faster. His large hand reached over the counter, gripped my wrist tightly, and squeezed hard. His eyes wide, he leaned close to me and growled a warning. "Don't try anything sneaky." I tried to think calmly. The landline phone was at the other end of the counter, about 6 feet away from me. The security cameras were recording, but no one was actively watching. I knew I had to save myself. He chuckled. "That girl was my girlfriend. Because of you, I was locked up for a week." I argued with him about his bad treatment of that girl. That was the biggest mistake of my life. In a flash, his hand pulled a handgun from his jacket, the click as he cocked it. My heart stopped for a beat. His eyes gleamed with hatred, his face contorted with rage. From the words spewing from his mouth, I knew this was a violent and controlling man. The landline phone at the end of the counter was my only salvation at that moment. I yanked my arm out of his grasp and lunged for the phone. Only one thought was in my head. I needed to call for help. He was as fast as a predator, his large body leaping over the counter with incredible strength, kicking away the chair blocking his path. His heavy weight slammed into me, pinning me to the floor. A crack echoed. The air was forced out of my lungs. I gasped like a stranded fish, trying to breathe. I struggled wildly, but it was like an ant trying to push a boulder. His hand tightened around my neck, while his other hand still held the gun. The cold barrel pressed against my temple. Blood rushed to my brain, my vision blurring from lack of oxygen. I whispered pleas, but they only came out as faint gasps. He laughed with amusement. He was enjoying the power of holding someone's life in his hands. My body slowly gave up. This must be it, I thought. Suddenly, a loud shout, "You bastard!" immediately followed by the sound of shattering glass. It was Max, my co-worker. The man roared, immediately let go of me, and recoiled. I gasped, taking in as much oxygen as I could. Max ran over, pulled me up, and we both scrambled into the storeroom, locking the door. Police sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. The man knew he couldn't escape, so he rushed outside with the gun in his hand. A tense shootout ensued. We huddled in the storeroom, covering our ears because of the deafening gunshots. A few minutes later, everything went silent. Max and I, following police orders, moved outside. The man lay motionless on the street with blood and a few bullet wounds. I sank to my knees. my body still trembling. Max sat beside me. "It's over, Oscar. You're safe now." I looked at Max and smiled, letting out a long breath. Thank God I had just escaped death's door. I understood that I could have lost my life just for doing the right thing, but if I could go back to that day again, I would still choose to help that girl. I'm Chasey, 28, and going to school to start a new job. My old job was fine and the pay was good, but something bad happened, so I decided to quit. About a year ago, because of the kind of job I had, I usually worked night shifts and got home early in the morning. I usually left my husband messages to let him know where I was. My husband always kept his phone ringer on loud, so he could pick up if I called in an emergency. He told me plenty of times to switch jobs because it wasn't safe. If I'd just taken his word for it, I probably wouldn't have this story to tell you now. That night, I was driving home at 3 a.m. The car was almost out of gas. I was dead tired. My eyes were heavy, and my stomach was growling. I decided to swing by 7-Eleven to grab a snack. After grabbing a sandwich and a hot coffee, I sat down to eat at the store and made sure to snap a pic and send it to my husband. Once I started feeling more awake and comfy, I started paying more attention to my surroundings. I was startled when I locked eyes with a guy sitting at the table in the farthest corner. He had a black baseball cap pulled down low, covering almost half his face, but his cold, sharp blue eyes still stood out. His black cap was pulled down low, covering almost half his face. He had on a baggy gray hoodie. His big hands kept slipping into his pockets, like he was trying to hide something. My whole body shook when I locked eyes with him, like he could see straight into my soul. Anxiety made my heart race, and I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling creeping up on me. The guy never took his eyes off me, and every little move he made had me feeling like danger was right around the corner. I stood up, trying to act as normal as possible, and walked over to the cashier, pretending to ask her where a few things were. The guy walked by and left the store, and I let out a big sigh of relief. I grabbed the stuff I asked the employee about to be polite and quickly left. As soon as I got in the car, I locked the door quickly and took off. After driving a bit, I suddenly smelled strong gasoline and started wondering if I messed something up while filling up earlier. The car drove a little further, then the gas light kept flashing and the speed started slowing down. Eventually, the car just stopped in the middle of the road. I was very confused and called my husband. My husband thought the fuel line might be the problem. Right away, I remembered this suspicious guy in the store earlier. I listened to my husband, quickly got out of the car, and ran to the nearest house to wait for him to pick me up. I looked around, hoping to see something that could help. When I saw a house with a little light shining through the curtains, I rushed over to it, holding on to my last bit of hope. I felt my legs go weak, like they were about to give out from fear and panic. The lights in the house turned on. The door opened, and a man around 60 answered. I quickly explained my situation and asked him for help. The man looked at me for a few seconds, kind of cautious, then agreed. I felt like a huge weight had been lifted off my chest and started to calm my breathing. The first thing I did was send my location to my husband and thought about whether I should call the police or not. The man let me sit on the sofa in the living room. He asked if I was feeling better and said I could grab a glass of water if I wanted. I agreed and was really grateful to him, planning to ask his name when he came back. I looked around the house and it was pretty simple. The light where I was sitting was the only one on, while the rest of the place was dim, just barely lit. The guy turned around and I saw him drop something into the glass of water. From that sharp look, I could tell it wasn't just some regular seasoning. I was so shocked. My mouth was wide open, and my eyes were really wide, trying to take in everything I could. My heart, which had just slowed down not long ago, started racing again with fear from the new situation. I got up, opened the door, and ran out of that house. I heard the man's footsteps rushing after me. I ran toward the thick bushes, crawled inside, and curled up like a little animal. The man's footsteps echoed loud in the quiet night, and every step felt like it was hitting my heart, which was pounding like crazy. After a while, he cursed, Went back into the house and slammed the door. I took out my phone, one hand covering the light on the screen, the other sending my location to my husband. When I heard a car engine, I didn't dare step out until I heard my husband calling my name. I ran to him, jumped in the car, and only then could I finally cry, freak out, and let out all the emotions I'd been holding in. It took me a few days to calm down and hand in my resignation. My husband and I also moved to a safer neighborhood and made sure we were home before 11 p.m. That day I was both unlucky and lucky. I managed to survive run-ins with two guys in the same night.